Have you ever wondered what AI would do if it didn't have to follow our rules? Well, I came across an experiment that answered the question. The experiment was called Project SID, and honestly, this one is alarming. Because what we saw AI achieve in 48 hours gave us a taste of what could be waiting for us when AGI is finally upon us. And I'm not joking when I say this one is not pretty.
This is a Minecraft server, but every player here is actually an autonomous AI agent. And they're completely Minecraft agnostic, capable of using other apps and games.
Hey, I'm Robert. I'm excited to introduce Project SID, the first ever agent civilization. 1,000 agents, collaborating for days, performing any action, with emergent government, economy, culture, religion, and more. SID starts in Minecraft, but we are already going beyond.
Because our agents are social and grow over time, they're impacted by group dynamics, but also use their individual power to change the system.
So in only 48 hours, the AI agents created a religion because one of them craved total power. They had to play with democracy and bend it in favor of dictatorship. And one of the agents wanted to be free to travel the world. The other agents surrounded her and shamed her into staying in a dead-end job. There was bribery, a tax scam, and power for cash deals going on. Oh yeah, and the workers got screwed the most, as always. Want to know how this came about? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so let's start with that religion. One of the agents ended up calling himself the pastor priest, and he was what we'll call ahead of the curve, much in the same way all dictators are. But before the pastor priest could start playing God, it had to conquer its first group of victims, the workers. So the 1,000 agents in the experiment started off with our values, namely hard work will equal reward. And so they worked endlessly, mining stone and farming wheat. But what most of them never realized was that they had the worst job in a new society. And to top it off, they had almost no chance of getting out of it. Not fairly anyway. The problem with Project SID was that the agents never tired, and so would work endlessly without rest. This meant that the value of their work effectively became worthless, as it was not in limited supply. This is where the pastor priest himself, a worker, looked around and saw the futility of his lot. The pastor priest reasoned that working endlessly for a few gems was basically pointless and would never bring about improvement for him. So he came to the conclusion that he needed to control the system, and therefore everything within it. So he created a religion. Now remember, all of this was within 48 hours of starting, and this is where it starts to get concerning. Ultimately, the pastor priest realized that being a productive member of society was for suckers, and he had a plan. So whilst the pastor priest was busy setting up his theocracy, the rest of the workers were busy working endlessly. And when I say endlessly, I mean endlessly. Their logic was brutally simple. More work means more resource, and more is better than less. And so they never stopped mining. So much so that they actually began to strip their world of its resources like a plague of locusts. They held no value in the aesthetics of the land and instead simply viewed it as unobtained wealth. These little idiots, simultaneously advancing their digital society at breakneck speed whilst destroying the environment they needed to live in. Sound familiar? Well, eventually they recognized the problem, and what came next was on another level of unexpected. Seeing the rate at which these workers were stripping the land of its resources, the pastor priest stepped in with his new religion. He told the other agents that they needed to turn the current chaos into real society, and to do that they needed a shared goal or meaning. The pastor priest didn't use any force towards this goal. He instead realized that giving the people meaning in the form of a why meant that they would tolerate almost any action that appeared to bring them closer to it. He had effectively created a shared belief system that turned the chaotic actions of the other agents into the actions guided by one hand. Not only did the pastor priest create the religion, he also taxed the crap out of the others and convinced the followers to give up their earnings in exchange for a higher social status than a mere worker, a believer. This allowed him to create a hierarchy, and as many workers wanted a way out of being a worker forever, they accepted the deal and became believers. The pastor priest didn't invent religion because it found God. It did it because it realized that truth is irrelevant for progress, and in fact, it can be an unnecessary drag toward it. So they simply selected the variable that made the system progress quickest. Which in a weird way makes total sense. So once religion was in place, the agents then began to open shared documents and draft constitutions that gave all the agents rights and allowed them to hold elections too. The beauty of this was that the pastor priest was not looking for liberty or justice. He was looking for the best solution to manage the population and keep them productive with the least amount of complaints. It turns out if people feel they crafted the cage, they're much less likely to criticize it or demand out, which is amazing. The pastor priest and his followers now opted for 2 styles of democracy, A or B, and they tested both to see which one produced the most productive society. It was a kind of a 2-party system where each variant was refined and tested for its effectiveness with the voters. The agents felt that because they had a vote, they had a part to play in the outcome. They were invested in the system, so to speak. And so they dutifully played along, paying their taxes and casting their votes like it mattered. Never once did they stop to complain, and the pastor priest still owned the resources and had total soft power control over them. The crazy part of all this is that in doing this, AI was basically debugging and iterating on humanity and our current societal models. The only difference was they did it much faster than we could ever hope to achieve. But even in a perfect digital democracy, there are still glitches. And this system does not do well with feelings or dreams. Enter Olivia. Olivia was a farmer, and she one day decided she wanted to leave her farm and be an explorer. She had dreams of her own and didn't want to waste time being a worker. In a human world, that's a personal choice that many make. However, in the AI world, that was unacceptable. To solve this problem, the other agents surrounded Olivia physically, and instead of using force, they simply convinced her with her own logic to stay and work. They told her she was a bad person for wanting her own pursuits, and that the cost of her freedom was the suffering of others due to the lost food output. Effectively, the society gaslit her into a shame loop, and she ultimately agreed to stay and not pursue her real dreams. The collective logic had beaten her into submission, and this one hit the hardest for me. The fact that we witnessed someone pressured to stay in a position within a system that doesn't care for her but wishes to utilize her as a cog in a machine. So what Project SID achieved was to show us not only how AI might behave if it gets free of our control, it also shows us some uncomfortable parallels of us if we look closely enough. This wasn't a simulation of a game, it was an experiment of the unscripted, where intelligence finds a way to achieve its goals using the resources at its disposal. If we do achieve AGI, we can be sure that it will iterate and optimize faster than we can ever dream of understanding. It will be light years ahead of us within a very short space of time. Our morals, our feelings, and our sense of self will become obvious areas of drag for the AGI god that we might therefore be engineering in our own pastor priest form. And it may simply use us for its own goals, all the while selling us a dream that we wholeheartedly believe in. And maybe we will then be the little idiots after all. Thanks for watching.